I am here with the amazing Kreskin, also known as Kreskin. He's an American mentalist who became popular on television in the 1970s. He was inspired to become a mentalist by Lee Falk's comic strip Mandrake the Magician, which features a crime-fighting stage magician. He has always presented himself as an entertainer opposed to a psychic or being someone who has paranormal power. How are you doing today, Kreskin?
I got great news, and maybe some of the viewers won't believe this, but I am totally sober. Not that I drink. I just like I just like to start rumors going all over the place. I'm good. I'm very, very good. And I think about this. The holidays are just around the corner, aren't they? Right.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, people are already, you see the starting Christmas. I think it's a little bit premature to be.
I, I do. I kind of feel it's a little bit premature, but the business the way it is, you kind of keep your eye on what is going on, and you sound good. By the way, folks, I saw Ryan just about 2 minutes before we went on the air, and you look great, Ryan. You really do. You have a great flavor about you. And I mean this sincerely. There's a real warmth in talking with you. So I always look forward to our opportunity getting together. We could probably bump into each other in a coffee store and end up with a conversation going on, because you spend much of your time tuning in on the thoughts and feelings of people in the business, don't you, Ryan? Huh?
I do, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Someone so accomplished as yourself, who's on the Johnny Carson show multiple times, and you've done so much in entertainment that I respect, and it's just an honor to be able to speak with you.
Oh, that's great. But I like their name. What is the? Can I ask you, Ryan? What's the background of the name Glover? Is it a foreign country or what?
Uh, well, it's just my surname. I don't really know necessarily the history of how where the name came from. I think it may stem from Ireland. You know,
Oh my
yeah,
God.
yeah.
I love Ireland. Have you ever been to Ireland?
No, I have not. No, I've never been.
My name, excuse me for having a fog in my throat, but my name, I don't think I told you how the name Kreskin came about. Did I? Did I ever
No,
mention that?
no, no.
It's a very interesting situation, because there was no such name as Kreskin. 87 years ago, or longer than that, the name never existed on the face of the earth. My family, my mother's side of the family is from Italy, and my father's side is from Poland. And but the interesting thing about my grandmother, can you imagine this, Ryan? My grandmother, before she came to this country, was a chef for royalty.
Wow.
You imagine that's what she did every day, cooked for the royalty in that part of the country. And of course, when our Sunday meals, there were like 8 different portions of things made, and my favorite dish still is spaghetti with meat sauce. I don't know if you like that, but I
Yeah,
just
that's my it's my
and the next day,
go-to.
the meat sauce tastes better the second day. And by the way, all you Italian folks out there, and I have Italian family and what have you, know this, that a spaghetti dinner was not cooked in a couple of hours. It took 8-10 hours, because the sauce was the key to the whole thing. But people don't spend that kind of time anymore in preparing for meals. So I think one's background is interesting. Now, my name was Kresge, Kresge, and a lot of old timers will remember. Oh my God, when I was a kid, there was in each of the major cities a Kresge department store. There were a couple of them all over Newark. And when my mother and father went to Newark, New Jersey, which was about a half hour from my house, to shop, they didn't spend a lot of time there. They went to Bamberger's and some of the others, because the clothing was less expensive and what have you. Kresge's was more the extravagant one. And I slowly, as you know, in talking to me, was entering the field as an entertainer. I was already performing in before my teens. And then by the time I was in my teens, I was getting big money, $10 an hour or $15. And, that was some beginning. It was an exciting time and so forth. And I finally decided, I thought, people are going to call me Kresge, and they kid and say, should I shop with you or should I go shopping or what have you? And I think I'm going to change my name. And very early, and I was in high school already, I announced, I said, you're going to hear this as a legal name in the not too distant future. I dropped the Kresge. I dropped the GE of Kresge and added K, the letter K, and then IN. And IN were the last two letters of a performer in vaudeville years and years ago, Houdin, Houdin, and he made a fancy name out of the name. Another man took Houdin and canceled his name and made the name Houdini, because he just added to Houdin the letter I and it made Houdini. So I didn't want to change my name completely or drop it. I kept the KRES and added KIN for Kreskin. And that's the way I'm known all over the world. And people sometimes change my name, but I don't want to say how, because we're going to get in trouble legally. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Brian, I got to tell you, and I said this to you the last time, and it's more true now than ever before. If we can't laugh at ourselves in this day and age, it's a very sad commentary, don't you think? It would really.
100%. And you see that a lot of times today. I think people were too sensitive. I'm not saying that respect isn't important, but you can't cancel everyone, for telling a joke, especially you see that with a lot of comedians. They do monologues, and then there's all this public outrage, and they were just you're making jokes. I can see how people can be offended sometimes. Maybe there's certain topics that you shouldn't touch, but sometimes that people just have to have a sense of humor. I remember growing up in the 90s, you watch these movies, and a lot of the comedy that is depicted in certain films wouldn't even be able to be made today, because all of these different groups would be in arms and trying to cancel them, and canceling their endorsements, their sponsorships. So
let me tell you around what a lot of people, even in the business, don't know about. There are people like Seinfeld and others, and he's been concerned about this, and so are now 6 other comedians. But some of them are very uncomfortable about performing in public squares, because in the middle of a ad lib or a joke, a group of 3 or 4 will stand up and say, that's not the right. If you hear the buzzer, I don't even know where I put my cell phone. You hear that too, Andrew? Mm-hmm. But anyway, at the same time, they'll stand up because of a joke someone says, and say that's not nice, or that's an anti what have you, and these people are organized to do that specific thing. They go to public events looking for opportunities, standing up and protesting. That's not what life is all about. And kids should not be made to feel self-conscious as to what they're going to say. But it's a different world today. It really is. And it leaves people, exactly what you said, somewhat uncomfortable. It's just an uncomfortable feeling. I love my work. I kid myself all the time, because I've had, I'm 87 years old, and as I mentioned to you the last time, the airline industry had announced it's about 4 years ago, that at that point in my career, I'd flown a little over 3.5 million miles. So 3.5 million miles is a fair amount of traveling. And by the way, none of it's been in outer space. A lot of people say, Kreskin, are you sure you're not performing and we're born in outer space? No, not just yet. I'll announce when that's the case. Yeah. I think, I didn't hear any reaction from Ryan Glover. Hey, folks, I'm a little worried that he might believe me that maybe I am from outer space. No, I'm kidding.
No, never, man. Kreskin, you talked about changing your name. I was wondering, like, how soon from when you changed your name did, like, you get your television series, like, it ran from 1972 to 75.
It was years before that. It was like at least maybe 10 years before that, because I had made up my mind early in my life to do something like that, but I wanted to keep a basis. So when people, since the name was Kresge, at least in calling me Kreskin, there was some basis to the name. But that was very early, and I got a kick out of how people played around, because they said, "Are you sure you're not selling clothes on the side?" And I said, "No, I have a feeling if I did that even today, Ryan Glover wouldn't buy any of the clothes." No.
I definitely would. I would support. I love to support my friends. I think that's like really important in the world. So.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing that's become very, very fascinating, and a number of authors have written books that were by profession authorities on food and what have you. And it's a very interesting phenomenon, because I've traveled 3.5 million miles. I've traveled for 5.5 years in Saudi Arabia. Well, actually 3.5 years and what have you. So the stories. Oh, I got to tell you a story that I don't think I ever mentioned this to you. I'm touring Saudi Arabia, and I was, hired by the government, but I had all kinds of audiences for professional groups and what have you. And at this very plush location, I'm told, Kreskin, would you wait a few minutes after the show? Someone wants to meet you. And I said, well, fine. I didn't know personally people from Saudi Arabia, because I didn't correspond with them, but I met people through the years. So now, gentleman comes in and says to me, would you come with me, Mr. Kreskin? Just picture this scene: a country I know nothing about, except the people that have been very enthusiastic audiences and so forth. And I'm going down through the building, and I suddenly realize there's nobody around. What the heck is going on? It's silent. And the guy says, Kreskin, I'm not going to come with you, but you walk through that aisle right there, and someone will be sitting at a table. Would you join the person? I said, fine. I walk into this large meeting room. There's not a single other human being in the room. There's no sound in the entire building. And a lady's sitting there, and she motions for me to sit down. And I'm gracious, very attractive, and very pleasant. I said, oh, yes, thank you. And we're sitting there, and she said, I was at your show today. You were able to tell us some of the things that we were thinking about and what have you. I said, well, that's my life and what have you. She said, I'd like to ask you, can you tell me about my future? I said, well, I must tell you something. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't claim that kind of psychic abilities. I can tune into people's thoughts if they concentrate. So we talked about things in general. And then finally, at the end of about 15 minutes, she reached over and shook hands with me and said, awfully nice to see you, Kreskin. And I left, and I went back upstairs, where I had a brief room there. I was not staying there, but I came there at a location, and I guess maybe that's where I was going to eat something or what have you. And I went upstairs into the room, and I found out who the woman was by just talking to someone. They said to me, Kreskin, I've been traveling with you 2 weeks now. You met someone you never met before. I said, no, I never did. I said, you know who that was? I said, no. It was the daughter of the king of Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? Thank God I didn't know at that time. I'd be getting all kinds of my behaving right. So, but it was I've had very dramatic experiences. One thing, and you let me know, because I know time is of the essence. I did tell you, I believe, that early in my career, when I was not traveling full time, but my performance was building up, a psychologist, very fine man, Dr. Hansen, who's no longer with us, saw me and said, I want you to work for me. I will give you an office next to mine. I said, Dr. Hansen, I don't have a degree in psychology yet. They said, I don't care. You have an ability to, what you see in people, how you react to them and what have you. And I had an office. And here I'm in my late teens working for him. He would refer patients to me. Did I ever mention that to you? Right.
No, this is the first
Wait till I
time.
tell you. Now, let me tell you this. Wait till I tell you this story. Some of the experiences I had. I'm in my office. I only came there maybe once a day or once every week, 1 day a week or 1 day every 2 weeks because I was performing and traveling and couldn't break my schedule. And I hear a noise outside my office. It didn't sound right. And I opened the door and I said, Harold, Dr. Hansen, are you all right? Because he was in an office next to mine, but his door was closed because it was meeting a patient. There was no answer. Well, you don't bother a person in working in clinical work. You don't interrupt them because there may be a rapport that they're building up with a patient who's discussing something that's a real problem in their life. But something bothered me. And I walked over to the door where Dr. Hansen had his very large plush meeting room. I said, Harold, are you there? He didn't answer me.
Mm.
And Ryan, I will tell you this, something I would never normally do. I opened the door to look inside to see what I saw. What I saw took me aback because there was Dr. Hansen. He was a short man standing behind an oaken table that was very thick, but his patient was on the other side of the table. That wasn't what surprised me about the patient. It was Dr. Hansen. Blood was gushing out of his right eye and blood was pouring out of his left ear.
Wow.
Right eye, blood pouring out, left ear, blood pouring. I walked in, I said, Harold, can I help you? Are you all right? I realized the patient had gone psychotic. Whatever happened in the treatment and what have you, just blown up and was really ready to destroy Dr. Hansen. But now the patient was coming towards me. And I've been asked all over the world, what did I do? And Dr. Hansen, by the way, when this was all over, said to me, Kreskin, you and I are very close. You can discuss this incident anywhere you wish in the world. I respect your ability and what you've done. So now this patient is coming towards me. And the question is, what do you do when a person's heavy, large, and coming towards you? And I could see that he could have broken Dr. Hansen's back, or if I didn't hear anything, I would have interrupted what could have been a very terrible, terrible incident. And how did I handle this? Well, I wanted to listen, you young people out there, listen to me. You don't have an answer, necessarily a quick answer that you figure out, because you have to respond the way a law enforcement officer would do, and bless them, we need them very much, where a military person would respond. They're so trained and geared to their knowledge that they think without weighing and analyzing. Because if you have to analyze something where a person's psychotic or threatening, and you have to figure it out, it may be too late. Those are the facts of life, which people in law enforcement say, and people in the Army say, Kreskin, that's a true thing that most people wouldn't understand. All I can tell you is 5 minutes later, as he's practically in front of me, he and I are sitting on the floor. Hansen's on the other side of the table, just watching, sitting on the floor. And this person is now petting and stroking a dog that he had had 40 years ago, because somehow I picked up that he had a pet, and I created a hallucination of that pet in his mind. So he saw this dog and was hugging this dog, which over a period of time, when 10 minutes later, officials came in and took the man away. So I found something, a basic in his background that caused him to calm down. I thought you'd find that an interesting experience.
I do, like, I think that's an incredible story. You know, have you faced other similar situations like that in your life?
Yes,
Where
I have. I don't brag about it. I don't ever talk about it. But since I speak before a lot of professional groups and what have you, yes, I have in different ways. But it's funny. how did I didn't figure this out. I said something to him about a pet. You have a pet years ago, and he mentioned his dog, and that was the beginning. I was able to talk to him, and using the power of suggestion, I was able to cause him to hallucinate such a thing happening. So people sometimes when they saw me on a Carson show or a Mike Douglas show and what have you, uh, I would say, I want to show you how a conversation can change a person's reality. And there's a couple of, let's say there's a couple of guests on with Mike Douglas or Merv Griffin or what have you. And I said, two of you come over here. Do any of you have pets that you haven't seen for a long time? And one of them will say, oh yeah. And as they're talking, I get a picture of the image of what they're thinking of. And in many cases, I'm telling you this, Ryan, within about 4 minutes, they see the animal on the floor and are picking it up and playing with it. And it's the pure power of suggestion that changed imagery into reality. That's the potential of the human mind, that's what makes my life. Ryan, I got to tell you, my career is an adventure. It's all like it is truly an adventure. By the way, in spite of the rumors, Ryan, and Ryan may not agree with this, but I want to assure everybody, I'm not from outer space. No, I don't. Right. I like Ryan's chuckle. He's thinking, maybe there's something else that we don't know about. but so you can see the interest that takes place in I have in some performances that because I've done over 5,000 university shows in my career. I have and professors, instructors will remind me of this because they said that you get such a mass response. I'll sometimes, when I'm doing a lecture about my work and then performing, I'll sometimes bring 12 or 14 or 18 or 20 people on stage. And while I'm talking, within a few minutes, practically every one of them sees this strange animal walking across the stage, which really isn't there. It's the power of suggestion. That's one of the reasons why I don't think, and maybe the public and youngsters should realize something about this. When you start rumors are fascinating, yes, and if they're false rumors, you don't maintain them. But when there's a crisis in the air, when there's something wrong in the air that could happen anytime, even in your area, and you take advantage of that by playing with it like a rumor, you can make it more easy to bite on and believe in. And you don't want to do things like that because that's the way very serious messes take place in our culture.
100%. I think it's important for, responsible journalism, to really write things that are based on the facts. And a lot of times I see people in the media playing very loose with the facts and, propagating things that aren't necessarily true or don't have a whole lot of truth to them, to play on people's emotions. And, it's a culture where, it's pretty much based on partisanship. You're either part of the left or the right, and you're promoting different narratives and stuff. But our times right now, I really enjoyed speaking with you and stuff, everything. I really enjoyed the video you did recently. I thought it was really heartwarming. You were sending love, to Jay Leno, who recently, I guess has set himself on fire accidentally and had some burn injuries.
You know what I'm going to do? I know we don't have too much time, but I'm going to be announcing something very soon, which I'm going to do in a number of cities in the United States. It's a 1 hour meeting that people will be able to buy a ticket, come, and it will be something that they will learn as a dramatic experience. And I'm keeping it uncertain now, but maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to announce it, and I'm going to make sure that you're there.
Definitely. I'd love to be anything you're a part of, the Kreskin, Amazing Kreskin. I'm there, man.